Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today and welcome to this educational presentation on how to kick your trading into overdrive. Now I know this is probably a question that a lot of you have asked yourself from time to time, like how can I get my trading to really get on track? Perhaps you're having a couple of winners and then you go into a series of losses and you don't seem to just really get back in that level of consistency that you've been searching for. Well, don't worry, I was there myself when I first started out, and it's something that you always have to be on guard for. But as long as you keep things as simple as possible, that's really where you'll be, at least at the foundation to getting back on that road to consistency. And I'm going to share with you a technique that is based in simplicity, but is extremely powerful, and I'll show you exactly how to implement it today. Now, for example, let's look at this chart here in the Dow industry or index, I should say. This is the Dow 30 index, and this was the first 1 or 2 weeks of August, just a short time ago. Looking at this, just a couple of weeks of data here, it doesn't look like much is happening, but as you can see here, a sell signal was generated using this technique I'll teach you today, and then another one was generated right here. Now, even though nothing really appeared to be happening in the market, and nothing really happened after that first signal, guess what? Yahoo Finance reports the Dow drops 800 points, the worst loss of the year as investors fear a global recession. This was in the second week of August, and we all know what happened on that particular Wednesday. And as you can see, how this simple but effective technique actually signaled for you to go short days in advance of that downward market. Okay? Now, everything I'm going to be sharing with you today is going to be accessed easily and simply on our platform. This is the PTS Primo charting platform that I designed with ProTrader Strategy. So this is going to be a great educational presentation today. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Steven Primo. I'm the president and founder of Specialist Trading. And I teamed up with ProTrader Strategies, who I developed the platform with. And we teamed up about 10 years ago with one goal in mind, and that was simply to educate traders around the world. And we're doing that right now, because we have students in over 115 countries around the world and in virtually every state in the United States. Our goal as an educator is simply to provide you with insights, wisdom, and trading strategies that have really stood the test of time, things that I've accumulated in my 42 years of trading. Now, I started my trading on the floor of the Pacific Stock Exchange. I was on the floor for a total of 16 years. In 9 of those years, I was a specialist. That's where we get the name Specialist Trading. If you're not familiar with what a specialist is, if you ever Google those pictures of the stock exchange floors with the guys yelling and screaming, maybe making all these weird hand signals, that's what a specialist is. And I did that for a total of 9 years. I was making markets on the floor during the crash of 1987 and the bull market that followed. I've traded straight up, straight down markets. If you can think of any system or any strategy, I've traded it. It's probably just been renamed and rebranded. So in my 4 decades plus of experience, I've traded just about everything you can think of, just about every environment you can think of. So why waste your time searching for that holy grail? Why waste your hard-earned money when I can tell you right off the bat what works in terms of consistency and what doesn't? That's what we do here. We educate our traders around the world so that for the first time, you can be in charge of your own trading. And I'll show you just how simple it is to apply that process in today's educational presentation. But before we begin, as always, we are required by law to share this with you. So please take a moment to view our disclaimer. I'm going to show you a lot of performance results, current results using this particular technique. But please remember that we can in no way guarantee that any of the results I'm about to share with you will be repeated in the future. And also, please remember that all examples are strictly for educational purposes only. So as you're taking a brief moment to view the disclaimer, once again, I'd like to take this time to invite each and every one of you, if you haven't done so already, to follow us on Twitter. I post a lot of educational information on a daily basis, a lot of free information from signals our strategies have generated to little bits of financial wisdom. So please feel free to follow us on Twitter. Now, remember, as I stated in the opening statements, we are a little bit different from other webinars you may have attended in that our only goal is simply to educate you. We are first and foremost an educational company. So if you come to this webinar thinking, well, I'm going to see what kind of signals this guy gives on a nightly basis, or if you're looking here to find out what the best market is or what the best time frame is, you've come to the wrong place, because once again, when a trader does that, what he's basically saying is, well, I don't have enough experience, I don't have enough knowledge to figure those things out, and I'm going to give that, up to you so you can decide for me. And this is the way we've all been trained as traders, and I think this is the reason why 85% of all traders fail, is because we've been trained to take ourselves out of the game. Now, I don't, teach that way. What my goal is simply to provide you with education and to teach you how to trade with the specialist edge. This is the same edge that was taught to me and has sustained me for 42 years. It's rooted in simplicity, and this is the same edge I want to teach you. So basically, what we want to do is put the power in your hands so that you never have to ask, hey, what do you think of the market? Hey, what do you think is the best time frame to trade? Hey, what do you think of this stock? Should I buy or should I sell? Once again, that's basically telling the markets, I don't know what to do. Can you tell me? And can you think of an endeavor or a hobby or a career with someone asking that on a daily basis? What do you think I should do? I mean, that's silly, right? You'd say, well, boy, you haven't studied enough, or you're not in the right business if you're asking someone what to do on a daily basis. Can you imagine an airline, a pilot saying that, hey, what do you think? How do you think I should fly this? Or a brain surgeon saying, hey, how do you think I should operate on this? You have to know that going in with the education that you've been trained to do, and then you know how to do it on your own. You don't have to ask people. No different with trading. You should never ask anyone what they think of the market or what they think of a particular stock or what they think of your particular investment. You should know going in what you think of it, what your odds for success are, and then you should follow along on your plan. This is the format, and this is the educational concept we have with all of our students. Now, as I stated earlier, this is an educational class, so I want you to ask me as many questions as possible, but please wait till the end to ask questions. I have a lot of slides for you, and I don't want to stop at every slide to answer a question. We'll be here far too long. I don't want to take up all of your Wednesday. So if you have a question, please wait till the end. The only question I will answer is the most common, and that is this being recorded? Yes, we will record this and send each and every one of you a link to this recording. So if you have to leave early or if you're having technical issues, don't worry, you will be provided with a link to this recording later on today, okay? All right, with that said, let's begin. And remember, the total foundation of our concept and our philosophy of trading is to keep things as simple as possible, not to overcomplicate with a lot of fundamental news, with a lot of tons of indicators, with a lot of rules that you don't understand what they're based off, but to keep things as simple so that it doesn't matter whether you've been trading 30 years or 30 minutes. Everyone gets the same basic, simple rules, all right? So let's start out. We all know that the first basic rule when we were taught to trade is to trade with the trend, right? That's trading 101. Now, if this is so simple, then why do most traders fail or have a difficult time for finding out the trend? Well, I think it's because everyone in the world is taught a different way in which to discern what the trend is. But how does one find the true short-term trend? Because that's really what we're looking for as traders. We're not looking for the long-term trend where we look at 10 years back. That really doesn't matter if we're getting out in a couple of weeks or even a couple of months. We want to know basically the short-term to the overall trend. So how does one find that? Well, for example, let's look at this example in Zion. Okay, this is going back a while, but it's for all intents and purposes, this could be happening today. As you see here, someone would say, well, Steve, this is obvious. This is in a downtrend. We're making lower lows and lower highs. And just about this time, this is where you figure out you're in a downtrend. So either you want to short it or you decide that you shouldn't touch this, and that idea you had for buying it, you should maybe can that and stick to the sidelines. So you stay out of this trade, and then look what happens, right? You miss that entire up move that you were waiting to happen. And by the time you figure out that it's going up, it's too late, right? So in order to trade in sync with the current trend, we don't need an indicator. We don't need to find out higher highs, higher lows. What we need is a tool that translates what the market wants to do. Because think of it, when you're trading the markets, don't you ever look at the market sometime, whatever chart you're looking at or whatever, and say, boy, this is like, trading someone who speaks another language, right? Because it's almost like you can't figure out at times what it's doing or what it wants to do. Well, that is a good definition of what the markets are. They're like someone who speaks another language. We can't really figure out on a daily basis what they want to do. We can kind of get an idea. So therefore, we need a translator. We don't need to figure out and to speak the same language. All we need to do is to have someone translate for us what it wants to do. It's that simple, okay? So what is this translator? Well, you've heard about me speak it before. This tool to translate is called the PET-D, a tool I was introduced to some 4 decades ago on the floor of the Pacific Stock Exchange. All right, so what exactly is the PET-D? First of all, it's a proprietary algorithm. We're keeping the rules to it in-house. Why? Because it's a calculation that must be calculated very cumbersomely. In other words, you have to stay on top of it. And we wouldn't feel this is a fair service to do to all of our students around the world. So what we've done is we've taken the hard work out of it for you. This is something that you don't have to calculate, especially if you're an intraday trader. It's almost impossible to do. So the way we've done that, taking the hard work out of it for you, is to make it a proprietary color bar tool. So what it does is it colors the bar of whatever market, whatever time frame you're looking at. Now, if you see a series of green bars, it's telling you, it's translating that the market wants to go higher, that it's currently in an uptrend. It's just translating this for you. It's not predicting how high it will go or how low it will go. It's just translating on a tick-by-tick basis what it wants to do right now. Now, if you see a series of red bars, that's telling you it wants to go lower right now. All right? So how do we use this? Well, one of the most, I'd say, popular ways to use this is as a signal confirmation tool. Think of it. Any strategy, any method you use, you can apply the PET D to confirm if that signal is in sync with the current trend. So let's say your strategy is built off of, let's say, the news. Makes no difference, okay? And let's say there's some economic report that generates a sell signal in your mind. Well, what you want to do is see the current bar that generated that signal using your strategy if it's colored red. That confirms that the market wants to go lower too. So your strategy is in sync with the current trend. This is one of the most popular and simplest ways in which to use it. But on top of that, there are literally dozens of techniques that you can apply with the PET D just based off the PET D alone. And we're going to share with you a technique based on this early trend detector, because we're going to use it today for determining what the trend is, and then we're going to trade in sync with the trend. Okay, so let's look back at that chart we saw earlier in Zion, okay? Once again, in hindsight, one could never have predicted when this thing was going to change, and we're not trying to predict it either. We're just trying to translate as close to as possible what the market wants to do. So now once we apply the PET D, we see that we had a series of 3 to 5 bars well in advance that were colored red prior to the really strong downward move. And well before we realized that this thing was going straight up, we knew back here that the colors had already changed. So as you see here written, the beauty of the PET D is that it tells you which direction you should be trading. And once you know that, you can apply virtually any strategy or technique that is in sync with that direction. And we strongly feel, through our testimonials and through myself personally trading it for 4 decades, that it will greatly increase your odds for consistency. All right, so you say right now, you're saying, okay, this is great, Steve, but what is this technique? How could I have found out to go short the market prior to that 800 down point day? All right, here are the rules to this particular technique I want to share with you today, usually reserved for the members of our PET D course, but I'm going to share with you the rules entirely today. And remember, this is simply a technique. And someone could say, well, what's the difference between a technique and a strategy or a system? Well, remember, a strategy comes with a full set of rules for entry, for stop placement, for exiting, for money management, for tracking the trade as it's progressing. Those are all important pieces of the puzzle. A technique is just one of those pieces of the puzzle. And in this case, we're going to share with you the piece of the puzzle that is entering, that is fine-tuning the entry point and then getting in. Okay? So let's look at this trading technique using the PET D. And remember, there are literally dozens of techniques. I'm just sharing one of them with you today. This is one of our most popular ones. All right, for buy setups, let's look at some buy setups here. All right, a green bar closes below the previous green bar's low. Okay, so this is a 2-bar pattern. You have a green bar, and its close must be below the previous green bar. In other words, the bar that was right before it must also be green, and it must be closing below that bar's low. All right, so let's look at this generic example here. We have 2 bars, all right? Doesn't matter if both of them are up, doesn't matter if both of them are down, doesn't make no difference. But what we see here is the low of this particular bar, and then the close of this is below the previous bar's low. As you can see here, there's the low, and we closed below it. Now, if both of these bars are green, this is a buy setup. So let's apply the PET D, and as we can see, yes, this is outlined green because it's an up day, and we have the up hollow body upward day. And then this is a down day, but it's still colored green. So all this means is that the PET D is saying that even though this day was down, it's colored green because it's still in a short-term uptrend. So this is a buy setup. Now, what if we want to go short? All right, same thing, we just reverse it. A red bar must close above the previous red bar's high. All right, so it's a two-bar pattern again, and we want to see that both bars are colored red, but bar number 2 closes above the first red colored bar. Let me show you what I mean here. Here are the two bars. All right, it does not matter if both of these were down or both of these were up. It makes absolutely no difference. What matters is the high of bar number 1 right here. All right, the high of the bar, not the close, but the high of the bar. And bar number 2 closes above that high. All right, now if we apply the pet D, we want to see that both of these are colored red. Well, we see the first bar is red, and the next day is red as well, because even though it's an up day, what is the outline? The outline is red. So this is telling us that this is a very strong upward move, but still in a downtrend. So this is actually a sell setup. It's a shorting opportunity. This isn't telling you that it's a reversal. This is telling you that this is a selling opportunity. So now, using this technique, let's go back and look at that chart in the Dow, okay? All right, remember, once again, we're only looking at a couple of weeks of data here. Someone could say, well, Steve, I've never been taught just to look at such a small amount of charts. I mean, you can't tell what the market's doing just with that amount, right? I mean, I've always been taught you need to look at a chart that has weeks of data. Or someone could say, well, Steve, I need to know what the fundamental news are going to. I need to know exactly what the earnings are going to be, earnings season. I can't make a decision based off this. Do you see how we've all been trained to find what something or someone else is telling us what to do? But we never look at the source, which is the chart in front of us, because that's what tells us what to do. Nothing else. You should never, in my opinion, look at an outside source to tell you what to do. You only listen to the market because the market knows what it wants to do. So why don't we take our cue from the market? All right, so we see here that we have a close and the high of the day is right here. All right, so if we go forward, we see the high of the day is right there and we closed above it. All right, and then we have the same scenario right here. We have a close lower, but here's the high. And the following bar closed above. Now, these are two setups to go short, but in order to confirm them, we need to apply the pet D. The pet D needs to have both this bar and this bar colored red, and this bar and this bar colored red. It does not care what these bars are colored. So all we have to do on our platform is click on pet D, and we see that both bars here are red, and both bars here are red. So guess what? We have two sell setups. Were we looking at seeing what was going on with the trade war? No. Were we looking to see what was going on with the overbought, oversold oscillators? Absolutely not. Were we going to that chat room to find out what that so-called trading guru was doing with the market? Absolutely not. Someone could say, well, Steve, how'd you get these setups? We only listened to one thing. That was the translator. Because the translator was telling us, even though we had some up days, they were outlined red and they had closed above the prior up day on both of these scenarios. So it was easy to be prepared. Even if you don't want to go short, you could have said, you know what, I have two sell signals here. Even though the market doesn't look like it's doing anything, I'm going to kind of sit on those sidelines and not buy anything until I see what happens. And that would have been a wise decision because the market fell out of bed the next day or so. All right, so let's look at this current technique in some other examples, okay? We're going to go back a couple of months. We might even go back a couple of days. Let's look at this chart here. Oh, first of all, we're going to show you all the charts, by the way, are going to be displays from our PTS Primo charting platform. This is the educational platform that actually teaches you how to trade. Remember, first and foremost, we are an educational company. So therefore, our platform is just an extension of that. It's an extension of teaching you how to trade, how to check your work, and how to listen to the market. Because we want to put you in charge of your own trading destiny. We don't have chat rooms at Specialist Trading and Pro Trader Strategies. We don't listen to a lot of fundamental news or things like that. I mean, you can if you want to, but that's not required. The only thing we teach is how to listen to the market, and we make it extremely simple. All right, let's look at this older chart in ROKU, okay? Going back to May, a couple of months old. All right, this had a really nice run up, all right? A really big up day. Kind of looks like it's running out of gas, rolling over. Maybe it's going to come all the way back down to fill this gap. In fact, that chat room you go to on a nightly basis says you wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole because it's overbought. All of the proprietary indicators are overbought, so you don't want to buy this. In fact, this is actually better selling opportunity than a buying opportunity. All right. You see how all the justifications were based off some guy that you don't know how good of a trader he is or how well he can, listen to the market. He's just basing them on some indicators or something. Why don't we listen to the market? All right. In order to do that, what we do is we use our pet D. On our platform, click on the pet D, and it automatically changes the colors. Now, as we see here, we have some up days, some down days, but they're all colored green. So how can the market be overbought if the market itself is telling you that it's in an uptrend? Okay? I mean, it's silly. The translator is telling us that this actually still wants to go higher. Until you get some red bars, it wants to go higher. And what do we have here? We have a bar that closed, here's the low, and then the bar that closed below that low. So according to the technique, this is a buy setup. So where everyone else is in that chat room saying, boy, you don't want to buy that, that's overbought, all the indicators are tremendously overbought, you're going to say, listen, I don't listen to that anymore, I listen to the market, and the odds are in my favor that this wants to go higher. And guess what? ROKU went up 23 more points in the next couple of weeks. Now, if you missed that, guess what? There was another setup right here. And if you missed that, another one right here. All right, let's look at another example on Apple. This is going back about 2 or 3 months. Once again, someone looking at this will say, well, sure, I mean, we had a really strong downward move. But this is exactly where the Fibonacci support is. In fact, this is where all the institutions, according to that $10,000 class I took, where all the institutions came in to be buyers. We have a bullish engulfing pattern right here. We stopped on a dime right where the institutions buy. So that's major, major support. That means there's buying right here. I don't want to step in the way of these institutions buying, so I want to buy too, right? Once again, all of my justifications on the trade were based off someone or something else, what they're doing. What is the market telling you? That's the source of what you're going to be trading. So why don't you ask the market what it wants to do? In order to do that, you click on the pet D, and the market is translating that it wants to go lower. Even though you had a little bounce right here, and you went up, had 2 nice up days, what is the color of the outline of the bar? It's red. So these are up days in an overall downward market. So the short term wants to go lower. And on top of that, where everyone else said there's major institutional support, it's being confirmed by the volume, what do you have here? You have a high of the bar, that's red, and you have the next day's close higher than that. So the technique is telling you that I just taught you is a sell. So where everyone else is buying, think it's going to go back to the old highs or at least fill in this gap, you're saying, you know what, I'm just going to listen to the market. I kind of like that webinar I went to, and all you have to listen to is the market. It's a lot simpler. You don't have to waste so much time and energy, time to figure out what indicators are doing, the institutions, what the economic news is. I just look at the chart and it tells me what the current trend is. And this technique says I should be selling, and that would have been a good idea because Apple went down 20 more points. Now, if you had missed that, don't worry, another setup right here, okay? All right, let's look at another example in PDD, all right? First thing you want to do is apply the pet D, all right? Now, where it looks like we're running out of gas, the pet D is still saying, no, all the bars are green, so the current trend is still up until I start having 3 or 5 red bars. All right, so what do we have here? We have a low, and then we close below that low. So that's a buy setup, where it looks like it's kind of running out of gas. You jump in and buy. Went up 10 points in the next couple of days, or a couple of weeks, I should say, coming into the 27th of August, just this last week, Tuesday. Now, this obviously had some news or something, made it gap up right here. We had no idea, and someone could say, well, how did you know this was going to gap up so strongly? We didn't have any idea. The only thing we did was listen to the market. And remember, the pet D does not predict how high something will go. It does not predict how low something will go. All it does is just furnish us with a translation on what the market wants to do on a tick-by-tick basis. Then it's our job to put together some structure in the form of this technique, and then just jump on board. That's all we're doing. We're finding out what the market wants to do, and we jump on board. We never want to predict it. We never want to say how high or how low it will go. I mean, that's silly. That's basically like gambling. We just want to go with it until it tells us it's changing its mind. All right, how about CGC? All right, this was in mid-July. Once again, coming down sharply, but then it looks like it hit a bounce here and then just kind of went up higher. It looked like it hit some support. Maybe it was a reversal, right? Well, let's apply the pet D. What's our translator telling us? Nope. The translator is telling us that this is a selling opportunity because this little bounce, all of the 3 up days have been outlined red. So this is just a bounce in a short-term downtrend. And on top of that, you have a high right here, and you had the next day's red bar close above that high. So according to our technique we just taught you, that's a sell signal. So you should not in any way think this is a bounce to go long. This is a bounce to look to go short, or at least to get out of your position, because the stock fell 13 points. Now the beauty of this is if you have a strong enough trend, as we did here in CGC to the downside, guess what? Look at all the different signals that were generated along the way. All right, here's an example in CREE. All right, all the bars are red. Now, if someone didn't have the pet D, they'd say, Steve, this is major, major support. Look at this double bottom right here. You have a bottom right here, right here. You've got to buy this, right? This is major support. This is right where that Elliott wave support is, okay? Once again, we do not listen to anything other than the market. What's the market telling us? It's saying that the majority of these bars, whether they're up or down, are all red. So therefore, the trend is down. And someone could say, but wait a minute, Steve, we're just going sideways for the past 2 weeks. How can the trend be down? Well, that's how sensitive the pet D is. It's really sensitive to picking up what the market wants to do, even in a sideways range. So as we can see here, what do we have? Well, we have a sell setup right here. We have another one right here, and even another one right here. So all the while the market was going sideways, it was not only telling you, it was screaming to sell based on this technique. Now, you may have had to wait for a couple of weeks, but ultimately, the selling pressure kicked in. And someone can say, well, how did you know this? That looked like support to me. We didn't know it was going to go down 16 points. All we did was listen to the market. Remember, our job as a trader is not to figure out how high something will go. It's never to figure out how low something will go. It's only to listen to the market. And when the market tells you what it wants to do, then you just jump on board. Trading is really simple. Remember I said that in the opening statements. I had a simple technique to share with you. Trading is extremely simple. It's ourselves, the trader, who makes it more difficult than it has to be. All right, here's an example in PSA. Okay, coming into this, all the bars were red. So we would therefore look for a buy, or I should say, I'm sorry, a selling opportunity where we had a bar close above a red bar. Okay, the red bar is high. Well, we don't have any of that here. And then the bars changed to green. So now we just switch. Why? Because the market changed its mind and now it tells us it wants to go higher. We don't really care why. You know, a lot of fundamentalists are always saying, well, why did the market go up? What were the earnings? Or why did this happen? You know, I stopped thinking that way 40 years ago. I used to do the same thing and say, well, why did it happen? I mean, well, you really don't care. Once you learn these techniques, you just listen to the market. If it wants to go higher, who are we to have to figure out why? We don't care. If it wants to go higher, we're just going to go with it. Now, once it decided with 3 green bars that it wanted to go higher, then we look for this technique setup. And what do we have? We have the low right here, and we closed lower. So that's a buy setup, 20 points in the next couple of weeks coming into this last week in August. Now here's a sell setup in KMPR, okay? We have all red bars, we have the high of the red bar, and then we had a close above it. 14 points coming into the 23rd of August, okay? Here's a buy setup in SHOP, all right? All the bars are green. Now, if you didn't have the pet D, you'd say to yourself, this thing is rolling over. What do we have here? We have a doji right at the top. This is going to come back down. I want to wait for it to see where the dust settles. Well, if you thought that way, based off of, you know, some class you took or some indicator, you would have missed this because you had a really nice buy setup. Here's the low of a green bar followed by a close below that low. So instead of waiting for this to go lower, thinking it's topped out, you could have jumped in and bought 57 points coming into August 27th, this past week. Okay? This is the beauty of this very simple technique. Now, if you want to catch these big moves to the downside, here's an older chart in Google, all right? We know it's a more expensive stock, $1,000 stock, but if you wanted to purchase options, you could have done that. Because looking at this, someone would say, well, really not enough information, Steve. I can't really tell based off 5 bars what to do. Well, actually, you can't, because once you have a translator, you don't really need that much information. Because once you apply the translator, you see here that the last 4 bars were red. Okay, that's all you need, because we have a red bar, okay, and here is the high of that red bar, and the next day was also red, and it closed above. So that's a sell signal. So just based off these 4 bars, that's all you need to know. And the stock fell 123 points, okay? Now, we're not saying you could have profited in that amount, and we're not saying with all of these examples we just shared with you, you would have profited those amount of points. We're just saying off this technique, that's the potential you could have captured using this very simple technique. Let's look at some other markets and time frames. These are older charts, but just to give you an idea that these can be applied, the same technique can be applied to different markets, different time frames. It makes absolutely no difference. So I don't want you to think that it only works for stocks. Now let's look at a weekly chart of Netflix. Once again, basically a sideways market. But if we apply the PET D on our platform, we see here that even though it's sideways, the market is translating that it wants to go higher. All right, so where most people would say, well, I don't want to do anything on this weekly time frame, it's a range market, you would have seen this 3 examples of this technique saying it wants to go higher. It's generating a buy signal. So therefore, I mean, this is not just a market going in a range, it's a market screaming that it wanted to go higher. And either one of these signals would have generated a nice potential profit of 35 points to the upside in the next 3 or 4 weeks. Now, how about a weekly chart of Tiffany, okay? Someone could say, well, Steve, this is a really positive candlestick bottom right here. We've got a morning star. I took that $10,000 candlestick class, and that is a very, very positive sign. You've got to go long this. This is a reversal pattern, okay? Okay, listen, I trade candlesticks, but the first thing I look at before a candlestick is what is the trend? What is the short-term trend? So what's the translator telling me? I apply the PET D, and it's telling me that, sure, that's a morning star in a downtrend. I don't want to trade that in a downtrend. I want to trade, in an uptrend. Why would I go against the trend? Nothing works with consistency if you're going against the trend. So I'm not going to look to buy this. In fact, I'm going to actually look to sell this because I have a high of a red bar that's followed by a bar that closed above it. So that's a sell signal. And as you can see on a weekly chart, the stock fell 40 points. So what happened to the morning star, the great reversal pattern? Remember, always be in sync with the trend. If there's one thing you get out of this today is that you must, as I said in the beginning of the presentation, Trading 101, you always want to be in sync with the trend. But remember, we said the reason why most people have trouble with this is because they're all taught different ways on which to find the trend. In my 42 years, the PET D is the best thing I know of how to find the short-term trend. Here's an E-mini futures 30-minute chart. Okay, someone looking at this will say, well, Steve, it's kind of slowly going up here, but this is pretty big resistance. I don't want to buy this. Well, we don't look at resistance or support because one man's resistance is another trader's support. What we do is apply the PET D. And even though you may think there's resistance, the PET D is telling you otherwise. It's telling you I want to go higher. Now, even though we had a number of down days with these dark and green blocks here in the chart, those are all down days in an overall uptrend. So you don't want to be short. Those are buying opportunities. As you saw here, they all fit the pattern of the technique I taught you today. And the stock rose 44 points in 2 days, or I should say the E-mini. Okay, that's comparable to $2,200 per unit. So we're not saying you would have made that much, but that's a potential you could have captured with one contract of the E-mini. Now, here's an example, a 4-hour example in the Australian dollar, not the daughter, the dollar, okay? As we see, once again, another morning star here, very positive, right? What's the market telling us? The PET D is saying that this is a downtrend, so I don't want to buy anything. And here's that pattern again. You closed above the previous bar's red high, so that's a sell in the 4-hour Australian dollar. 95 pips, okay, in the next 3 days. That's almost $10,000 per unit you could have potentially captured to the downside. Once again, if you missed that, market is always giving you second chances. Here's an example in crude oil. Here's an older chart going back a couple of months in crude oil. You could have thought, well, we are kind of making a bottom here, but if you apply the PET D, we see that these bars change color to red. We have a high here and a red bar followed by a bar that's also red that closes higher, so that's a sell setup. Crude oil fell 9 points. So there's no reason, in my opinion, that you have to look at fundamental information or economic reports about crude oil. I mean, the market tells you what it wants to do. Why overcomplicate your trading? All right, so let's recap before we go into question and answer portion. Remember, this technique calls for a green bar closing below the previous green bar's low. That's a buy setup. And it also, for a sell setup, calls for a red bar to close above the previous red bar's high, okay? That is a sell setup, okay? Now, extremely important things to remember. This is not a complete strategy. I know a lot of you are going to say in the question and answer portion, gosh, Steve, this is great. Where do I exit? Where do I place my stop? Where exactly do I enter? Remember, those are all pieces of the puzzle. What we did was share with you a technique, because we didn't talk about your entry signals. We didn't talk about exactly where to enter. There are a number of ways you could have entered. Could have placed a limit, could have bought at the market, could have waited for a new high. There are a number of ways in which to enter. We didn't talk about where to place your stop. Could have placed it below the previous pivot low, maybe below that entry bar's low. Maybe you could have waited for a specific pivot to be formed. Lots of different ways to place a stop. We didn't talk about exiting. We have upwards of 7 different exit points. All right. We didn't talk about any of them. Okay. So remember, some of our traders like to get in and out quickly, take a quick point. Others like to stay in for as long as possible. So these are extremely important pieces of the puzzle. And lastly, we didn't talk about money management. How many shares? How many contracts would you be purchasing? We didn't talk about any of these. These are what make up a strategy. What we shared with you today was just one piece of the puzzle where we highlighted a particularly high potential for entry, either going long or going short. Then it's up to you to decide how to enter, how to place your stop, and how to exit. So ask yourself before you ask me questions. We are already into the final quarter of 2019, okay? Starts in just a couple of days. Do you think this technique can help your trading for the remainder of the year? Going forward, the last 3 months of the year, 3 or 4 months of the year, do you think that this could really help you, okay? Maybe kick your trading back on track so you can finish strong 2019 and start out 2020 really strong. Well, I think the answer is yes. So we have a great attendee discount today for all the people attending. We're going to offer you the Pet D. All right, this is our Pet D course. We call this our roadmap for any market. You're going to get the complete proprietary color bar algorithm that automatically colors the bars green or red. This also includes 2 continuation trading techniques. All right, also 2 pullback trading techniques. These are different techniques than what I shared with you today. You're also going to get a trailing stop technique if you like to use this strictly for using your own strategy, but maybe you want to apply this as a trailing stop. Remember, you can apply this to any market, any strategy, and any time frame. This is going to be a great discount, but we're not going to stop there. We're going to include something as well. Now, let's look at this chart right here in the spiders. I know a lot of you say, well, Steve, you know, I have my strategy, trades pretty well. I'd like to use this to determine what the market's going to do, the way you showed in that example of the Dow. Okay, well, this is going back to May, about 3 months or so ago. All right, remember when the market was going up? It's really easy to trade the market when it goes up, but what happens when it reverses? For example, when the market was going up, look at how the Pet D colored all of these bars green. I mean, here are a number of those buy setups along the way. But what happens when the Pet D gives you an early warning that it's about to change? Because right here at the very top in May, the full bar was red, and on top of that, the market fell 19 points in the spiders, but that was comparable to over 1,800 points in 1 month. All right, this is where traders usually give everything back that they made to the upside. Well, here's how this technique could help you. All right, it can at least get you out of those markets if you're currently in them, because once you see that the market has changed, well, if you're long, let's say ETFs or specific positions in the market, you could have used these sell signals to get out before the market really fell out of bed. Or else you could use it the way we taught you. Here's an example in CASY. All right, looks like the market's going sideways market, but you're listening to the market now with a Pet D, and you see here that you have a green bar. Here's the low, and the next green bar closed entirely below. If you wanted to purchase options, we have a number of option traders in our classes. Well, this would have been a nice option trade. The stock jumped 15 points in 1 day. So you see this happening over and over. So what's the special offer we're going to include? Well, on top of the roadmap for any market, we're also going to include our PTS Primo charting platform. You see, this makes it simple. This is the portal that you've been searching for because everything is pre-canned. It's already pre-formatted, and it's just 1 click away. There's nothing you have to do. You get instant access. You're going to get 1-click Pet D access. So there's nothing you have to wait. Sure, you can use your own platform if you'd like, but it's so much easier if you just click on that little green tab at the top the way I showed you during today's presentation, because it automatically changes the colors. But we're not going to just stop there. We're going to also throw in our enhanced buy-sell line. This is a way in which to follow the overall trend. So if you want the short-term trend, which is the Pet D, along with the overall trend, a lot of traders are more conservative and like to have both of those in sync. You can do that as well. You're also going to get a strength of trend tool. This is a great proprietary tool I developed with proprietary strategies, which really outlines when a stock, a future, or a currency pair is running out of gas or starting to build up strength for a trend. So it shares with you the strength of that current trend. It's a great tool to have in your arsenal. We're also going to throw in a signal scanner, so you can scan for the nightly PET-D setups on top of that. This includes over 90 of the most prominent technical indicators, but once again, we're not here to tell you how to trade. As I said in the opening statements, if you came to this presentation thinking that we're going to tell you what the perfect market is, we're going to tell you what to buy and sell on a nightly basis, we're going to tell you what the perfect time frame is, remember, that's not our philosophy. Our philosophy is just to provide you with information so that you can be in charge of your own trading destiny. And if you feel you must rely on fundamental news, well, that's fine. We've provided you with free Bloomberg TV. Now we're also giving you personalized tech support. You're going to get all of this for 12 months for free. This is included with the PET-D. But remember, this offer, the PET-D discount, along with 12 months of the platform, is only good till this Friday. This is how really sensitive this is, because we're really giving you a great deal. So what's the offer here? All right, you're getting the complete PET-D along with educational correspondence. That's my personal email address. You can email me whenever you like with questions about how to trade the PET-D. This PET-D course, along with the application, along with the platform, is for $29.95. Okay, this is roughly about $1,000 off. And this is going to be with included 12 months of the platform, absolutely free. But remember, this is from today through Friday only. Now, if the $29.95 is too expensive, we understand that, so we're offering payment plans as well. But you must act on this up until Friday, or it goes back up to roughly about $1,000 more, and that does not include the platform as well. Remember, 2019 is nearly over. We just have a few more months left. A year from today, you will have wished you became a member of this course. Most likely, that price is going to increase threefold, most likely, because the PET-D and our platform are our most used products, okay? You're going to want to take advantage of this discount. Finish out 2019 strong with the PET-D and with our platform. Here's how to take advantage of this, okay? Contact Pro Trader Strategies. They developed all of my courses and all the discounts, and they're in charge of all the tech support with the platform. I would strongly suggest calling them up and setting up a payment plan. Therefore, you don't have to come up with that one lump sum. Okay, you can call them directly at area code 310-598-66. They're in charge of all the discounts and all the payment plans. There's absolutely no obligation. They would be happy to work with you and set up a payment plan so that you can be up and running and have the PET-D as early as today if you'd like. Now, if you'd like more information, you go to the informational link at the very bottom. And now that's not a live link, but we have just posted a live link in our chat box right now. There it is. So if you go to the chat box on the Go to Webinar column, you see that they've actually posted a link there. So you can click that on and we'll take you for more informational, and you can also sign up as well online for this great offer. But remember, I personally would suggest contacting Pro Trader Strategies. There's absolutely no obligation, and you can talk to them on the phone. They would answer any question and be happy to give you information about setting up a payment plan, okay? Now remember, I asked you to ask me as many questions as possible. So, as promised, just go to your question and answer box, type in the PET-D, or I should say the question, and I will answer it about the PET-D. Let me see, I'll open it up here. It says, how does the PET-D work? Well, if you're asking what it's based off of, remember, it's a proprietary tool. All I can tell you, it's based off of momentum. It's listening to the market on a tick-by-tick basis what the momentum is of the market. The beauty of the PET-D, though, is not in the algorithm, the proprietary algorithm, proprietary calculation. The beauty of the PET-D is in knowing how to apply it correctly, okay? Because, trust me, I could give everyone today the formula to the PET-D and for free, and most likely you would lose money trading with it, because it's not the calculation that you must calculate on a tick-by-tick basis. What makes the PET-D valuable is knowing how to use it correctly. And this is what we just taught you right now. As I stated earlier, there are literally dozens and dozens of PET-D setups and techniques that we teach you in our courses, okay? Let's see, DTS, do you look at the 50-period simple moving average for this technique at all? No, you can if you want to. Once again, we're not here to tell you how to trade. If you want to only take those signals that are in sync with the buy-sell line, which is the PET D, you can. Remember, you're in charge. So we have tons of traders who trade this technique and say, you know what, I want this in sync with the overall trend as well. Great, then apply it. But let's say you say to yourself, you know what, I'm only going to apply this with the PET D alone. Then that's great. It's up to you. Remember, you're in charge. We want to make you in charge of your trading. We're not here to tell you how to trade, okay? Also, sometimes you use the fast PET D and sometimes a slow. That's why, because we say you're in charge. It's up to you to use that, which one you want. Because sometimes you say to yourself, you know, I want to get a slower view of the PET D, or sometimes I want to get it faster. And we explain this in the course. So this, once again, goes into what we stated at the beginning. We want to make you in charge. You can apply for yourself whichever one you want. Chantri's asking, it means we must have to trade with the PET D all lifelong? Well, remember, once you buy the PET D, this $29.95 discount, it is yours for life. This is not a 1 year. Remember, you're getting the platform for 1 year. But if you want, also, we give you the add-ons for your particular platform. So let's say you have TradeStation. We will supply you with add-ons for that. But you're getting the platform, which is something that is extremely, extremely simple to use. So that's why we give it for you, so that you can learn how to use the PET D through its simplicity. And most likely after a year, you're going to want to sign on with a subscription to our platform anyway, because that's what most of our students do. So it's really a great, great tool. And we give you the platform to make it easy for the first year, okay? Remember, there is absolutely no obligation. Contact Pro Trader Strategies. If you have a question about the platform and the discount and how long you have to have it and what the price is afterwards, they would be happy to give you that information. And there's no obligation. They're not going to say, well, in order for that, we have to sign you up. No, they'd be happy to work with you. And they would be happy to set up a payment plan so that you can be up and running in the next couple of days. You can start using the PET D. Someone is asking, you said the PET D comes with 4 more trading techniques. Is the one you just taught us included? No, in fact, those other techniques are entirely different. So don't worry. So with the technique you learned today and with the other ones, you're going to have a total of 5. And it also comes with a stop placement technique as well. Let's see, are long and buy arrow signals available with the PET D? No, they're not, because the PET D, remember, in order to get a buy and sell signal, that would mean it would have to be a strategy. Remember, as I said in the beginning, this is just a technique. This is just pinpointing a high probability entry or a high probability selling area, buy entry or sell entry. How you enter is entirely up to you, okay? So remember, we are teaching you as an educational company how to spot these, but they're very simple. I mean, as you saw today, I mean, it doesn't really get any simpler than that. And the other techniques we'll share with you are extremely simple as well. But this is why students have difficulty with this, because they've always been taught, well, I want an arrow to tell me when to buy or an arrow to tell me when to sell. We provide you these arrows with our strategies as educational techniques so that you can learn how to spot something and you can check your work. But ultimately, my goal as your instructor, as your mentor, is to have you go away from these arrows, okay? I have traded all of these for some 4 decades. I don't rely on these arrows. I know exactly where a strategy buy or sell setup is. I know exactly where a PET D buy or sell setup is. And that's where I want to get you to that point as well, okay? Joseph says, can the PET D work on a weekly time frame? Yes, it can, Joseph. I showed you that, what was it, a Netflix example on a weekly time frame where it went up 35 points after the setups were generated. I also share with you that Tiffany setup where I believe it went down about 50 points. Those are on weekly charts. Remember, the PET D can be applied to any market and any time frame and in any direction. So that's the beauty of it. You know, if you saw this and you said, well, Steve, you know, I trade Bitcoin. I didn't see any Bitcoin examples. Don't worry. We have traders who trade the PET D with Bitcoin, okay? Remember a couple of years ago when the Bitcoin was going straight up? Don't you think this could have helped you, this technique could have helped you with Bitcoin? Okay, so this is a great, great tool to apply at any market, any time frame. I use it intraday trading the E-mini futures. That's how it helps me. So it does not matter what market, what time frame. The PET D is an extremely powerful tool. But as you just saw, these techniques are extremely, extremely simple. We have people who have never traded before using the PET D to make their trading decisions. So trust me, this is a great way to close out 2019. If you want to close out 2019 strong, this is a great way to do it, and a great way to start out 2020 very strong in the right direction, okay? So as we close here, please take advantage of this great offer. This is a great, great discount, and I'm almost certain that this price will almost double sometime next year. And it may not even include the platform. So you want to lock that in right now. And a great way to do that, in my opinion, is to contact ProTrader Strategies and set up a payment plan. Therefore, you don't have to come up with that one lump sum. You can still be up and running and still be a student of mine and still be emailing me with any personal questions about trading the PET D at my personal email address, okay? So as we close here, I just want to say thank you so much. I hope you learned a little bit about our philosophy and how we really want to educate you, how I educated you today by showing you how simple it is to trade with the PET D, okay? Remember, contact ProTrader Strategies, absolutely no obligation. They would be happy to hear from you and happy to answer any question you may have. Take advantage of that, but this great offer is only good until Friday. Then it goes back to the original price of, I believe it's about $1,000 more, and that does not include 1 year of the platform, okay? As we close here and take one last look at our disclaimer, please remember to just contact ProTrader Strategies. There's no obligation, but I hope you learned something, and please keep things as simple as possible. Remember, trading is simple. It's ourselves, the trader, who makes it more complicated than it has to be. And as you saw today, trading with the PET D is extremely simple because it takes all of the hard work out of the market for you. It tells you on a tick-by-tick basis what it wants to do. It translates that for you, okay? So once again, thank you so much for attending today. I hope you learned a little bit, and I look forward to all of you becoming students of mine in the PET D course. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.